All right, everybody. So this first battle is a good one. We do have G2 versus Cronah. Crazy battle to have to do. This is actually a pocket battle in the losers bracket because Cronah and G2 amazingly were both defeated in their first battles. So this is not either of their first battles. It's both of their second battles, and just super crazy that they had to battle each other so early in the tournament. Of course, only one can win. They are both using the strongest teams they can because it's a huge opponent to try and defeat. All right, so let's start it off. Cronah's gonna lead with Garchomp, and Golisopod is the lead from G2. Let's see how it goes. It's pretty crazy, let me tell you. All right, there it goes. So switch into Corviknight right away, and Cronah actually went for Sleep Powder on his Garchomp, which is a cool play because it covers everything, right? Except for like a grass switch in, but that wasn't going to happen. So the Corviknight from G2 is asleep right away. And so that gives Cronah a free chance to switch in the Volcarona, which is fantastic. Very, very good play from Cronah, I think. Putting him in a very slight lead at the start of this battle. So Volcarona here, probably going to go for a fire move, and it does. Goes for that fire pledge. Arcanine switch from G2, eating up that fire pledge. And then Cronah switches into Garchomp on the Arcanine, which normally makes sense because Garchomp is very defensive against fire moves, but the Arcanine goes for Dragon Claw, and that's going to do really big damage. So a little bit unfortunate for Cronah there. Does stay in and goes for Bone Rush, and then a switch into Corviknight from G2. So G2 is doing a really great job of moving around and cycling through his Pokemon so that he doesn't get hit by these huge attacks from Cronah. But Cronah does get in Volcarona again, unfortunately getting smacked by that Pluck because the Corviknight does wake up here. However, he does get to go for a Fire Pledge again, and the Arcanine comes in just like it did last time, but every time it does that, it gets a little bit lower. Like you can see, even though it's resisted, even though the fire attack is resisted from the Arcanine, it's still doing a lot of damage. Volcarona hits like a truck. And so the Arcanine can't come in on the Volcarona like that again, basically. And Cronah actually decides to go for it here and goes for the Fire Pledge immediately, hoping to be able to get something to happen. And look at that. He gets a crit, which is what he needed to make it possible to one-shot that Arcanine from that range. Unfortunately, the Arcanine gets down to like 1 health. Just was a little tiny bit short, even with the crit. And this Dragon Claw will not kill the Volcarona. So good play by Cronah, I'd say, to kind of have the game sense that he knows that his Volcarona was able to beat the Arcanine based on how much health they both had left, because the Volcarona is faster, so it will take out this Arcanine. So great play by Cronah, taking out a big threat from G2. Dragapult comes in. That's obviously really scary. And this is actually where I believe Cronah made a bit of a mistake. He decides to sack his Volcarona, which makes sense because it only has 9 health. However, I think he needs the Volcarona for the Corviknight, because Corviknight is a big problem. So possible mistake to sack the Volcarona against this Dragapult here. But that is the play he chooses to make, and he will be going into Gyarados to fight the Dragapult. So Corviknight comes back in, and we do see that there is a dual chop from Gyarados. So the Gyarados does know a dragon move. Kind of shows us why he used the Gyarados against the Dragapult in the first place. It goes for Razor Shell against the Corviknight, gets good damage, and gets that defense drop. So that means that G2 basically has to switch out because his Corviknight can't beat the Gyarados. Switches into Golisopod now, and then Dragapult onto the Golisopod. The Golisopod didn't stay in either, so it brings us to this weird spot of now Dragapult versus Corviknight. Dragapult does know Incinerate. However, Corviknight is just so tanky, and that is not a stab move. from this Dragapult that it's not doing quite enough, and the Corviknight is able to heal back up with a Milk Drink. If that had been a different attack, like a strong, something like Flare Blitz or Fire Blast, if it was a stronger fire move, this Corviknight would not be able to heal up against the Dragapult. But because it only has Incinerate, the Corviknight does quite clearly beat the Dragapult in this situation. Still staying in. Cronahs maybe just getting some information at this point. Or maybe he's trying to burn through these milk drinks is another possibility. But this Dragapult is now getting pretty low. And as we have seen, it doesn't actually beat the Corviknight because the Corviknight can just heal through it. It's not doing quite enough damage. He's still going for it though. Worst case scenario, he's already burned what, 3 milk drinks? And so that's pretty useful. I did mention earlier, I think it would have been better to keep the Volcarona alive, because then you wouldn't have to deal with any of this, because you're going to smash through a Corviknight. But that's not what happened. So now we are into Garchomp versus Corviknight. And this Garchomp goes for Sleep Powder again and does hit it again. So this Corviknight's now asleep. And this Garchomp's going to be going for Dragon Rage, which is going to do 40 damage every time. Not anywhere near enough to get through the healing, but he put in some work earlier with his Dragapult to get rid of some of these milk drinks. I believe there's 1 milk drink left, and Garchomp just doing some interesting plays by using Dragon Rage in tandem with putting it to sleep, and actually doing a decent job. The Corviknight is now out of milk drinks, and it looks like this Garchomp is going to actually 1v1 this Corviknight, which is kind of interesting to see. It's gonna be close though at the end here. Sleep Powder again. He's hit almost every Sleep Powder, which is pretty lucky for Cronah. Dragon Rage not quite gonna kill this turn. Corviknight wakes up and goes for that Smart Strike, but it doesn't kill the Garchomp. So the Garchomp is able to take out the Corviknight by getting rid of all of its healing. However, of course, the problem is that it took a lot of resources for Cronah to be able to actually beat that Corviknight, and so Cronah's really on the back foot at this point. Gyarados going for Dual Chop, gonna smack this Dragapult for about 60% damage, and that's looking pretty good. So Cronah is in a position where he could maybe get back into this game, but then we have a Magnezone coming in for G2, and Magnezone is a huge problem for Gyarados, not able to the Gyarados just really can't do very much. Goes for a Razor Shell and gets good damage. Surprisingly, the Magnezone goes for a Glaciate. Probably expected the Gyarados to switch out, but that's not what happened. Not at the beginning anyway. And then gets it the second time with that Electro Web. Here's the Leafeon from Cronah. And this is actually, I think, what ends up being the downfall of Cronah. Cronah was not able to get any value out of his Leafeon. You can see here he has to use a not effective Bullet Seed against Magnezone is the only attack that he's able to really do with this Leafeon all battle. So this Leafeon, unfortunately for Cronah, in this battle specifically, was a bit of a weak link. He goes into Gardevoir now and gets smacked by a Bullet Punch. Not going to do too much. It's not game ending, and the Draining Kiss is now able to take down Magnezone because it was weakened by all the other Pokemon beforehand. Dragapult versus Gardevoir. This Dragapult does know Shadow Claw, and it does kill the Gardevoir, and that will be the end for Cronah.